What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of Everything Marvel Podcast. Today, we want to talk about Spider-Man Far From Home, and I also want to introduce my newest co-host. If you'll give a warm welcome to Caleb. He's a fellow Marvel fanatic, just like me, and he has a lot to offer, so he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a while. So he's going to be helping us in the next coming episodes, and I think we're going to start doing some video game segments. He's a huge video game fan, especially Marvel video games. So we might do some of those in the future. I'm excited about that. So let's dive right into Far From Home. All right, it did great. It was a great movie. We went to see it together. Was it opening weekend?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was opening
weekend. It was
weekend.
like 2 days after I think it first released, something like that.
Yeah, because we were like, we got to get there early. The seats were filling up, and we didn't realize. We were like, oh, crap, this is actually opening weekend. We're not going to get a seat if we don't go soon enough. And pause. There are huge spoilers. If you don't know about that by now, we are going to give away lots about the movie. So I don't know why you're watching this if you haven't seen the movie yet. So you've been warned.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it by now, then you're just asking for spoilers. Yeah, it's not on us.
It's on you. So the movie opened, I think it was 185 million. I mean, that's huge. I can't even fathom that amount. I mean, Endgame blew that away, but I mean, it's a different.
That's a different scale.
It's completely different. So the basic idea, the basic plot behind the movie, everybody's wondering after Endgame, how are they going to address the snap? How are they going to address, what did they call it? The decimation.
Right.
And I like the way they did it. It was weird, but I like the way they did it. They called it the blip. So everybody blipped out. And then they blipped back.
Which is such a Spider-Man name for it. Like, it fit the tone of the movie perfectly.
Yeah, you were like, okay, a blip. Sure, we'll go with that. Okay. Everyone's still aged, you know. Say we didn't get snapped. Say I got snapped and he didn't. He still aged, whereas I didn't. So I came back my same age. It was really strange because, you know, the school systems had to adjust, and it was just this huge weird thing for everybody. But they go into it in a lot of detail, and it felt really well explained.
And yeah, they did it very well. I thought it was really cool that they showed a lot more detail of like how the world moved on, instead of this kind of like apocalyptic event that they had when Ant-Man came back.
Oh yeah, that was really strange.
Because it was very end of world type thing, and I felt like Spider-Man did a good job of explaining how normal life moved on.
Sure, yeah. It felt a little more tied off after the beginning. You're like, okay, that makes more sense. So there's a lot of characters in this one. I didn't realize there were going to be so many recurring characters like Fury, Maria Hill. They were still there a lot, which plot twist.
Kind of.
Plot twist at the end. We'll get there, though. We're not there yet. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. And so when we saw the original trailer, Mysterio has come from Earth, you know, or come to Earth to help, and we're like, okay, wow. And Spider-Man fans are going, wait a second, he's a bad guy. Hold on, what gives here?
Yeah, I mean the way they built it up was he was like teaming up with Spider-Man.
Right.
And I was like, man, is there some backstory there
Right.
that I don't know? Or are they
Right.
going with a new timeline type thing? Because
Really confused.
not that Marvel would ever do anything weird with a timeline, but yeah, they did a very good job of bringing that along. I thought that was really cool.
And so he shows up in the bad guys in this movie. They're calling them the Elementals, and so we were all excited. We're like, because I think those are actually in the comics.
Yes.
And so we're like, oh great, the Elementals. We get to actually see them. And so we're led to believe that Mysterio's here to help. They're going to fight the Elementals. You know, Spider-Man teams up with Mysterio, and it's just going to be these great battles, and it looks really cool in the trailers. And in the beginning, one of them shows up right off the bat, and you're like, oh, wow, awesome. And I felt a lot like he needed Spider-Man's help. And you're like, well, Spider-Man's just Spider-Man, and this guy's flying around like Iron Man shooting beams out of his hand. What can Spider-Man do? But he actually lended a hand a good bit. I thought like he helped out a good bit.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see the dynamic of how they were going to address, you know, because in the trailers they lead us to believe like Fury's looking for Spider-Man to take over for Iron Man,
right?
And the way they kind of built it up, especially in the beginning, another kind of alluding to a spoiler, of Mysterio more taking that role, and I thought that was you know, an interesting dynamic that they introduced.
Right. At one point, you were being led to believe that, like, even he had Mysterio, I'm getting off track here, but they had Mysterio sitting down and put on the glasses, and he had the beard and everything. You were like, that's the new Iron Man.
And as a glasses wearer, I just want to point out the fact that those are some really sick glasses. Like, I don't know that they would fit my face because, you know, I'm a little more round and I have a large head. But, like, those are some really sick glasses. And Gyllenhaal pulled them off about as well as Robert Downey Jr., just to say that. So
I was surprised. I was like, okay. I'll allow it.
They're
Sure.
both just attractive men.
Right. So the idea is Peter's on a school field trip. He doesn't say if it's like a senior trip, but it's just a school field trip. And so they are going to Europe. I think the original destination got changed at the last minute. Fury had something to do with that, but minor details. Watch the movie.
I thought, wasn't the plan always to go to Venice, though?
Venice.
Wasn't that, yeah.
And then as it progressed, they
Right,
were,
then-
we're going here. No,
yeah.
wait, we're going there. And
Fury ever the puppet master.
yeah. So he doesn't really want to fight crime. I don't even think he meant to bring his suit. I think Aunt May packed it for him, and that was awkward at the
What
airport
a
when
great
they
scene.
popped it open, and the lady at the airport's like, "What is this?" And he's like,
I mean, we've all had embarrassing stuff
Right.
come out in those TSA searches.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What's gonna happen? He had no idea, but he really just wants to spend this whole trip getting close to MJ. He's falling for MJ, and that's what happens in the comics. We're like, yeah, fall for MJ. It's great. They're gonna fall in love. They're gonna flirt. Whatever. We were all excited to see that love story, and they tried to lead you to think that it wasn't going to happen at one point.
Right.
Tricky Marvel. They're just misleading us. They would never do something
Crazy
like that.
plot twist.
Never do something like that. So Tony left him these super high-tech glasses called Edith, and it stands for Even in Death, I'm the Hero. And
As only Stark can.
only Tony would do that, and he can basically put it on, and it's a similar AI to Jarvis. It's basically an upgraded version of Jarvis, and he can control pretty much any of Tony's tech. At the command, he goes, "Hello, Peter," and he can just say, "Hey, do this." He almost blows up his own bus. He's trying to accidentally. He's not trying to. He accidentally almost blows up his own
Yeah,
bus.
Stark didn't send it with instructions, and
Right.
you would imagine that would be a lengthy user's manual.
How do I not blow up my school bus? So, and the plot twist. Here's the huge plot twist. You finally figure out it takes a good section of the movie. For the first part of the movie, I'm like, okay, are we watching Spider-Man? Or are we watching Mysterio featuring Spider-Man? Like, what is this movie actually we're watching here? I'm confused. The plot twist. Mysterio is actually a bad guy. Dun, dun, dun. Nobody saw that coming.
Right.
He is not from another Earth. He made us think there was this huge multiverse, which the new Doctor Strange movie is
Can't wait.
telling us that there is actually
Strange is my
multiverse.
favorite, so expect me to be a little excited about
That
that
one's
one.
going to be great. I'm pumped for that. Back to where we were. He tries to lead us to think that he's come from this other Earth in the multiverse, right? And he's actually not. He used to work for Stark, and Stark made him mad, which I'm sure a guy like Stark had enemies. Iron Man 3, Aldrich Killian. He had his enemies. He had his skeletons.
And I thought it was really awesome that they went into the whole scene where they're going through in the bar scene, where they're going through and they're like, oh, he did this
Each
to this
person.
person. Yeah, and give a lot more of a backstory, and then you start realizing, oh yeah, that's where I've seen that guy's face from. That's
exactly. And so he uses drones. Get this, he has an army of drones. We don't know really where he gets these. I guess he builds them over the years. This army of drones to project all these images of chaos and destruction and explosions, and he basically, it's all pretend. Every fight, every explosion it's all pretend. Sometimes they actually knock things down and they actually light things on fire, sure, but the majority of it, like that whole last scene, you actually get to see it. The drones are in the middle projecting the scene out of a tornado or a storm or something.
some sort of
And so you're like, okay, it's all fake. We've been misled all the movie. So,
But I loved all the drone scenes, and when they went in like behind the illusions, especially the scene like I think it was like supposed to be an office building, but I think that was just the projection they were putting on,
right.
where Spider-Man thinks he's meeting with
Right.
Fury. That was one of the more well done scenes as far
fantastic.
as. I don't want to say CGI because that leaves people with a bad taste in their mouth,
Yeah.
but that's really what it was.
Right.
But it was great, very well done.
Right.
I was extremely impressed.
Yeah, for sure. So the elementals aren't real at all. We're just misled. Mysterio is actually the big bad in this movie. So he befriends Peter just to get the glasses. Somehow he knows that Peter has these glasses, and this is the key to his master plan, is he's got to get control of all of Stark's tech. He needs to befriend Peter to get the glasses, to do what he needs to do. And so he does that. He's this huge hole. They become best buddies. There's that whole scene in the bar where he
takes on the father figure role,
Right.
the way Tony was starting to.
Yeah, and Peter needed that, and so he just latched onto him so easily. And so he perfectly fell into his trap. I mean, textbook.
Well, like everything with Mysterio, I think that's an underlying theme of his character is, how meticulously planned everything was. From the illusions, we see some behind-the-scenes stuff where they're like choreographing and rehearsing. I mean, more or less, it's like an awesome dress rehearsal,
Right.
in like an abandoned playhouse. And you know how meticulous everything he was doing and how well thought out. He didn't leave too many holes,
Right.
or too many glitches or anything, you know, that could have come back and bit him. So it made him a really awesome villain.
Right.
I really liked that.
The only time he slipped up is they found that projector
Right.
on the ground. You know, they were walking through the streets and they see this projector on the ground. I think he accidentally kicks it or something, and it projects like a section of the battle. And they're like, wait a second. And then Peter starts putting two and two together and realizes, oh crap, I have royally screwed up. I've basically given him the keys to Stark's kingdom, and now he can do whatever he wants to do with it. And that's scary.
Yeah, and so before that though, like, and even you know, after that, when I think of that scene, I just think of Spider. Wow, I combined Peter and Spider and made some new word out of it. The not monkey element I thought was a fun tie-in.
Yeah.
I thought that
was fun.
suit was hilarious. It looked awesome. I felt like. I know it's just plain black, but like kind of an idea of like Ninja Spider-Man sounded
Sure.
kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then they didn't go that route with it. They made it not monkey, which is a European twist on Spider-Man.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. So big fan of that.
And so when he fights Peter the first time, and he destroys him. That scene we were just talking about. He's led to think he's walking into a building and meeting with Nick Fury, and it's just an abandoned building, and so the projecting is happening, and it's just this crazy battle, and it's just all over the place. He just beats Spider-Man down. Like
It ends with him getting ran over
Right.
by a train. Like that's
bloody and-
amazing. Yeah.
his suit's all torn, and it was probably one of the most visually stunning scenes in the MCU. I think that's what he said. He was like, as soon as we left, he was like, "That's the best scene of the movie."
That was my biggest takeaway. Like it felt like an Inception type thing, which I love the movie Inception, just especially for like some of the creative elements they did with the shifting of gravity and everything moving upside down and stuff. And so I felt a lot of that. Like I don't know. I didn't look at, to be honest. I probably should have done a little more research. I'm sure Kyle would know, but like I don't know if there was some tie in there, but it had a lot of those elements. So I don't know if somebody that was in the creative process may have been involved in that, or maybe they were just had some sort of muse from that visually, but
Probably.
I felt that way anyway.
The thing it reminded me of is one of the scenes where Doctor Strange gets pushed through all the
Oh, yeah,
multiverses by the Ancient One. She sends him, like, I think she like hits him on the head, and he just like, it was that visually amazing. Like, thoroughly enjoyed that part. So that's basically the layout of the plot. So I want to hit the good parts, like the highlights in my mind of what the movie had. So there was so much of it. I liked so many different aspects of it. Like, they even, so many small details down to the music. They took the original theme song and then incorporated it. They're not trying to shrug off all of the old Spider-Man. They're incorporating that, and I love it.
And I love the tie-ins. I hated the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. I'm just that guy. I mean, especially 3, really, and I love that they addressed that in the animated Spider-Man that just came out.
Spider-Verse.
In Spider-Verse, yeah. I love that they kind of allude to that was god awful, but like holding true to even those films, they were like street musicians still doing the Spider-Man theme song in Europe. I thought that was really cool and stuff.
That was awesome. I liked the multiple suits that they have for Spider-Man in this one.
Yes.
I mean, the Iron Spider, they had just your basic suit from the other ones. They had the black suit that you were talking about. They had the awesome suit at the end.
That last suit was amazing.
So cool. Like when he was making it in Stark's, was it airplane?
Yeah.
He was in the back of Stark's airplane designing it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. And I'm actually playing through Spider-Man, and a lot of these same suits are on that game. And it's the same idea. You can build suits and you can upgrade suits however you want. We might even do an episode on that game. I'm doing it on my other channel, but I may just do a recap once I beat the game, and we might just talk about the whole game.
And again, I can tease a little bit too. Like, I play Marvel Future Fight. It's a mobile platform game. Love it. Been a big fan and been playing it almost since the beginning. But they released those suits a couple weeks before, or about a week probably before the movie was released. So there was a little bit of a spoiler but it was still really cool to see visually. And the fact that, like, which as a gamer, you appreciate being able to customize your suits.
Yeah.
Like that's some of my favorite things on like Fable and stuff, like choosing your armor and that stuff and stuff. I thought it was really cool when Peter made it his own instead of something that Stark made for him.
Right.
Was kind of him owning up to that new. He's the new Iron Man. Do I dare say that? I mean, he's his own thing, and he proved that. And Happy told him, he even said, quit trying to be Tony, be Peter. But yeah, I loved that last suit. It was just amazing.
It's fantastic. So, in a small side note, if you remember from the first trailer, right, the very first trailer, this was before Endgame dropped. The very first trailer, it shows that scene where he and Aunt May are doing some kind of fundraiser, and he has on his basic suit, right? In the movie, he's in the Iron Spider suit.
Yeah.
Think about it now. If they had put him in the Iron Spider suit, they would have had to nail down in the timeline, oh, this is after Endgame, because after Endgame, or somehow he comes back because he didn't get the Iron Spider suit until Infinity War, and he got snapped in Infinity War. So that would have completely given it away that the snap is undone.
Again, just another prop to Marvel and their planning and the way that they keep everything a little tight to the vest. I mean, things don't slip very often with Marvel. You know what I mean?
Everything is very intentional with them. There was great action scenes pretty much throughout the movie. There were great locations. Everything, the scenes, the shots, they were beautiful, and the acting was great. I was so skeptical about Jake as Mysterio.
Yes,
but he did a great job.
He crushed it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Down to, like I said, the looks earlier, where and it was intentional. He addressed it that he looked like Tony. Like it made him. He did again, just everything so thought out, and he looked great, and he did a great job. I was very. I'm not a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. Prince of Persia left a bad taste in my mouth with Jake Gyllenhaal, amongst other things, but we're not going to get into those.
Yeah, that's a different talk. I really enjoyed the Happy and May relationship. It was so funny. It was teased in the trailer as well, but we got to see the depth of it. How they were hanging out and they were trying to hide it from Peter, but it was so funny.
So not only is Favreau a great director, he's one of my favorite actors. People forget just how awesome he was. People really remember him for a handful of things. Right. Like I go all the way back to Swingers, way back in the day. Wow. Vince Vaughn is and Favreau played really well together in that movie too. So I thought I just love Happy. I love Favreau.
He's hilarious.
Been told I look a little bit like Favreau. I think it's a weight thing and a big head, but
All right, okay. I thought the comedy was very well placed. I've said this before about some of the others. The comedy felt forced, but not in this one. It felt the jokes were well placed. It wasn't too much like the crack that MJ makes about, oh, I'm pretty, so I have value. I was like, oh, wow.
I loved that they brought her along, and as a character, they developed her. They didn't just leave her as the love interest. She became really a vital part of the team. And the dark sense of humor, they address that a lot, which is
different.
Yeah, I mean, that's not Kirsten Dunst. You know what I mean? Like she's her own character, and I think is it Zendaya? Is that her name?
Yes.
She's doing a great job. I'm sorry, I'm showing my age a little bit there. I don't really know who she is outside of MJ, but she's killing it. Yeah, I feel like she's doing a great job.
Fantastic. And I like I said earlier, I think they did a great job of how they addressed the snap/blip/decimation, whatever you want to call it at this point. What happened? They talked about it well. They didn't dwell on it, but they addressed it enough so you're like, oh, you felt resolved.
And they added a lot of really cool parts. Like, they mentioned that one of their classmates when they all come back is, he was the little brother. Now he's
6'3".
Yeah, 6'3". I loved the kind of callback to the college football, the bands on the field. Stanford.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, like with the running through and the band blips back in the middle of a basketball game. I thought that was great. Another. Not a big humor point, but it was. It wasn't forced. It felt really cool the way they did the whole news broadcast. When they're addressing the blip at the beginning was really good.
Yeah, they talked about the fallen heroes. They did, I think it was Tony, and they had Cap, which he didn't really die, but he's not really around anymore. So, but he was in there.
Who knows what Cap's doing?
They had Black Widow, and they had Vision in there, and so it was kind of a homage to the fallen. And it's like, oh, okay, I feel better now. There's a little more tied off at the end, even after we're all bawling at the end of Endgame when Tony's thing is floating out in the water. We're like,
I didn't cry. You cried.
For sure. Probably 3 times.
I definitely cried.
I lost count. So and you alluded to this a little bit. They've changed some of the characters, but I don't hate it. Like Flash.
Right.
He in the the comics, the original, he was just this big, jock guy and yeah, slick back, funny hair. But in this one, he was more of a social butterfly. He was streaming the whole thing, and he was like, "Hey, flash mob," but it works.
He still played a bit of a bully,
right?
But like in a new age sense, and it's another way of keeping true to who he was set as in the comics, but like updating it a little bit.
And I really appreciated that. It wasn't like the jock with the Letterman jacket on. It was an updated version
the
of
cliche, yeah.
And so it worked really well. So I want to transition now into the bad. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of it, but I'm nitpicky. Like, I want to point out these things that don't quite sit well with me. So, like I said in the beginning, they duped us so much in the trailer, which they did that in Infinity War, and they did that in Endgame, and they dupe us all the time. They wanted us to think that Mysterio was the hero.
They went really hard on the Mysterio.
So hard. Like I was saying, like, am I watching Mysterio or am I watching Spider-Man? And I feel like at the beginning, especially, it was the same complaint I had with Homecoming. Spider-Man can't do anything on his own. In Homecoming, he just had to have Stark bail him out every time. There was no small situation, no bad guy. He couldn't do anything. Tony had to swoop in and save him.
That's one thing I can say about Marvel is the inconsistency with Spider-Man, because one minute, he's fighting alongside, or like the airport scene in Civil War, like he's handling his own and like doing very well, and then sometimes he just turns in. Oh, you're like, oh yeah, he's still a teenager, but they make him like super whiny almost. I really don't like that.
Yeah, that's. Let's see. Oh, and us diehard Spider-Man fans, like, this was one of the comics that I would sit in the comic store and read as a kid, was Spider-Man. I don't remember all of it, but I remember sitting there reading them, and I knew, I was like, Mysterio's a bad guy. I'm not fooled. Why, I think it was just intentional duping, and a lot of people were duped.
They were.
But it made so much sense when we got there. We're like, oh, he was trying to gain his trust so that he could do this and do this. So, and back to MJ, I feel like she's a little too moody and depressed. Like, I like it, it's an okay direction, but it's like at some points they're overdoing it, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. Like, is she gonna go cut herself? Like, is she gonna what? Hold on, time out.
Her theme song's done by Fall Out Boy is kind of what it feels like. I know that's terrible to say, Fall Out Boy fans. I'm sorry. But.
I have a hard time believing that all the destruction that seemed to happen was an illusion. Like, because there was, especially in that first scene, it looked so real.
With they're calling him Hydro Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that was the Venice. Yeah, the water was coming up and the bridges were breaking, and like it looked so. He even got hit by a fist of water at one point. He's soaking wet. I'm like, how do you fake that? Like,
Again, I know we're talking about the bad, but I still thought Hydro Man looked amazing.
Oh, he looked
visually, he was amazing.
Yeah.
But you're right. It did seem almost a little inconsistent, because you're like, how does a drone mimic that? How does the illusion aspect really? There was a little bit of a hole there. I mean, I'm sure they could explain it, if you wanted to dive deep. But let's be honest, it's a movie. We don't want to dive that deep. Like,
that's too deep.
Yeah.
So let's go to the post-credit scenes, because these are vitally important. I dare say they changed the MCU.
Yeah.
Drastically.
Definitely.
I dare say that.
These were some of the most impactful cutscenes that they've had in a long time.
A long time. So the first one, Peter and MJ are, I call it a swinging session. They're swinging. I think this was her first time on the web, and she's scared to death. Like, she thinks she's gonna die, and they stop at the end of this. The end credit, the very end scene, is when they take off and she's screaming, and then Spider-Man, comes on, and then after that whole scene is done, then it cuts back to them and they're finishing, and they land and they're talking, flirting, whatever. I think they kiss or something.
Maybe.
But then he does this cool little Spider-Man flip, and then he looks over, and then a billboard changes, and you're like, wait a minute, and it's, guess who it is? J. Jonah Jameson.
Which is, I love the J.K. Simmons.
It's the original.
J.K. Simmons.
Yes. And we were all like, oh my God.
Yeah, we fanboyed hardcore.
Oh, we did.
The rest of the theater just looked at us like we were insane.
Like, sorry, guys.
No apologies.
And then he's, Spider-Man is so bad. And they cut to this
pretty
clip.
Good.
Yeah, right? And they cut to this clip. And it's Mysterio. He's taking that last fight that they have on the tunnel. It's not a tunnel, it's a bridge.
Sky bridge,
Sky bridge. It's a sky bridge. And he is like, because he died.
Right.
Supposedly. He looks pretty dead, but...
Again, illusions, we have no idea what happened.
Right.
It's just...
But his henchmen were still around, right? And so they cut it, and they edited the audio. And they made it sound like Spider-Man ordered the drones to kill him. And so immediately, Spider-Man was portrayed as the bad guy. And now I like that because it plays into why... A huge reason as to why J. Jonah Jameson hates him so bad. The Menace, he's such a bad guy. It plays into it well, though. If you think about it, he's going around killing people. He doesn't kill people.
Right.
We know that. He's Spider-Man. But it plays into that well. And so right after that, it cuts to another scene where it's like, and I don't know how they recorded this, how Mysterio pulled this off. But he's sitting there going, Spider-Man's secret identity is really... And you're like, whew, that was close. And he comes right back on, Peter Parker. And you're like...
Yeah.
What?
It's a big reveal.
And even Spider-Man's eyes, they adjust. They went...
Which is great.
Huge.
Another small comedic thing that was great.
It was so good. And so that leaves you hanging. You're like, okay, how did they ever do this in the comics? How are they going to dig themselves out of this hole? And I saw a funny meme today, side note, that it was just a Skrull. You could just say that Spider-Man was a Skrull the whole time, and it's not really Peter Parker.
Well,
so they maybe use that.
It's interesting. That's an interesting take.
Side note.
I feel like, unfortunately, I do feel like they're going to use the Skrull to do a lot of, fixing some time issues that we have. And
maybe.
Watch Old Man Cap was actually a Skrull.
What?
I'm kidding. That's not a thing. Don't.
So I have a feeling the next movie, which I don't think it's even been hinted, announced, anything, what he's going to be in next.
Yeah.
Because we just got the layout for Phase 4, and there's no Spider-Man 3 in it, so we're going to have to wait a while.
They are redoing Blade, so that's cool.
Oh, my gosh.
But that's another podcast. We can talk about that.
We got to put the brakes on. We're going way ahead here. Okay. But, so, that's a game changer. The next movie that even talks about Spider-Man, they got to work through that somehow, because Spider-Man he wasn't like Iron Man, because from Iron Man 1 on, Tony Stark is Iron Man. Everybody knew.
And I felt like that's kind of why they did like the forced reveal, because Tony, with Spider-Man kind of stepping into the role of being the new Iron Man, Tony came out and just said, "Yeah, I'm Iron Man," and Peter never really did that. I'm sure it's because of an age thing or something like that. I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
A kid wouldn't be doing that. But I do think that was kind of what Marvel was doing. That's another way of kind of mirroring him and Tony together.
Right. So, I'm like you. I think he was too young for that.
Yeah.
But so moving to the post-credit scene, there's the second one. The second. They call it
the post.
They actually call it the mid-credit scene is that one, and then they call it the post-credit scene is the one after. That's the official name for it. But yeah, tomato.
Which,
whatever.
by the way, we were like the only ones left in the theater.
I know.
Kyle, actually, you said, "Do these people not know
like,
this is Marvel?" Like, what do you do? You know this is coming. You've waited this long.
This is important. Okay, so it's Fury and Hill driving. All of a sudden, they change, and they're Skrulls. They've been Skrulls the whole movie.
Which explained a lot. Yeah, a plot hole that I was going to have a problem with. It would have been in our bad segment was the way that they portrayed Fury, but knowing that he was a Skrull, I was like, all right, I'm going to lay off of it. Yeah.
There was things that the Skrull knew that only Fury would have known, but nitpicking again. So, and then he's FaceTiming or something, Fury, and Fury's on this spaceship. It pans over and it looks like he's on a beach. He stands up, changes, and it's just a fake background. He's on a spaceship full of Skrulls. This is out of left field. I have no idea. Where is he? Who is he with? Is Carol there? What is she doing?
I would imagine Carol is there, just to kind of jump in there. Yeah. Because I felt like, looking back, I didn't really think about it at the time, but looking back, the ship had the layout of a shield ship. You know what I mean? And I feel like, that was intentional.
Yeah.
Marvel doesn't do stuff like that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's Marvel and podcast. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, and they didn't show Carol or mention Carol, but like, she just played such a big role in Endgame, and obviously her own movie. Who would have known she would have played a big role in it? I think this is another way of just tying her into after a post blip.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then the hologram beach thing that he was in kind of made me think of when Coulson in Agents of Shield
Yes.
was
Tahiti, right?
Tahiti. Yeah, I was gonna say Thailand, and I was like, nope, that's not right. Tahiti.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of gave me a little bit of that thought was like, oh, well, that's another Shield thing that I felt like.
Nod.
Yeah, which I know Shield's not a it's a fallen entity and some of that stuff, but it is what it is.
Right. So my biggest questions from those two scenes, like, how are they going to salvage Peter's identity? Is Mysterio actually dead? Does his crew carry on his legacy? Because in theory, if he's a digital projection, they could still make him real. They could digitize him and make him do this thing and that thing. They could bring him back if they wanted to. He could be another villain. But I feel like, and I'm finding out in this game has so many villains. Spider-Man has such villain depth, I'll call it. They have so many villains they could pull from.
Oh, yeah.
And so they don't need to bring him back. I mean, I feel like it would be redundant at this point. But
for a teenager, Spider-Man has a lot of villains.
Right.
Like, that's
There's Shocker, there's Sandman,
Yeah.
there's Venom, there's Doc Ock, there's Black Cat. I mean, the list goes on.
the entire
forever.
Sinister Six is
Yeah,
just amazing.
Yeah, it goes on forever. So it's like, they don't need to bring him back. Why would they? It's Marvel.
I mean, he was just such a good bad guy.
he was.
I kind of hold out hope that they are going to bring him back, but I would be a little disappointed, and I would like to get your thoughts on this. I would be a little disappointed if they brought it back as like, no, he didn't die. Like, what if it's more like, because it's all people that worked for Stark Industries, right? That are so. What if it's like a Iron Man suit that they use to control drones going forward instead of a person controlling it?
That would be interesting for sure. Plot twist.
Maybe.
It will happen. We'll see.
Because we did see the guy with the flash drive that still had parts of Edith on it, or we're led to believe anyway.
Right.
It looked like. So that was my first thought was maybe they can, because it's a flash drive, which I would love to have a flash drive big enough to hold the complexity of Edith, but that maybe that would play into a suit that they're going to turn into a Mysterio type thing. So maybe, who knows?
That would be fantastic. So to wrap it up, it's a very good movie. I liked it better. I dare say this sequel was better than the first one. I liked this one better than Homecoming. Shoot me.
Homecoming was refreshing because it was a big shift in quality. From I mean, even the Andrew Garfield stuff. Like I loved Andrew Garfield, but like they were still lacking compared to Far From Home. You know what I mean? And Michael Keaton was great as Vulture.
I'll give it that.
Maybe that's a little Batman nostalgia tied in too. But it was nice to see him back in a superhero role, and super villain technically.
Superhero movie.
Yeah, but I overall I loved the movie, and I do hope that they continue to get better because I agree with you. I do think this was better than Homecoming. I dare say.
And I'm very excited to see where they lead Spider-Man. I mean, there's, like I said, there's such depth with this character. There's such potential with this section. Not to mention what he's brought to the Avengers section and the MCU overall, but just Spider-Man. Like you said, Sinister Six, they had originally planned, and I'll go back. They would have originally planned with the Garfield series to do a Sinister Six movie, and it just didn't happen because the Garfield one didn't do as well. So they scrapped that idea. They can still do that. They have enough villains to do that. So they could go that direction with it. They could do like a Suicide Squad type thing, and
I feel like we need redemption from Jamie Foxx. Like, he was a terrible bad guy. That's what killed that movie for me. And I feel like that character deserves more. Yeah. He deserves better.
Shocker. It was a Shocker, right?
Was it Shocker or Electro?
I can't remember.
I'm not gonna lie. People are gonna kill us for that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I have only seen that once, and that was enough for me. So I can't remember exactly what his character's name was.
But anyway,
look on Google, kids.
Yeah, I enjoyed Shocker in the game that I'm playing right now. He is fantastic. This game I'm playing now, we'll have to do an episode on it when I beat it. So, next upcoming episodes we might do a Future Fight one here very soon. We might do a Spider-Man PlayStation 4 game review recap thing whenever I beat it. I'm like 20% through, so it may take a while. We also will have to talk about the stuff that's coming out in Phase 4. I think the next movie is Black Widow, her origin story, and that's, I think, slated here shortly.
Very soon.
within a year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll do that, and they're gonna start releasing those TV series, and so we'll have to keep up with those.
Super excited.
And we still need to do a Jessica Jones season 3. I just finished that.
I did too. I just finished it last night, actually.
So we're gonna do that one soon. I have thoughts on it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna bail out on Runaways because I cannot get into it. It's so.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it cringy, but it's like.
I haven't started that one yet. I've been doing working through Cloak and Dagger.
Okay.
Not a big fan of it either. So
But anyway, that's all for Far From Home episode. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.